To get started, let me introduce myself. My name is Dave. I work for Amerihealth Caritas, Pennsylvania. They are a managed care organization, which is taught for it's Medicaid. It's one of the options for Medicaid insurance. No worry, I don't sell insurance. I don't talk to you about insurance. I am only here to do community outreach. So they pay me just to do these programs and wear their shirts. I'm just letting you know where I'm from, who I work for, and my name. Like I said, my name's David Baer. Actually, I'm from the southern end of the county. I grew up here all my life, so I'm real familiar with Huntingdon County. I graduated from Southern Huntingdon, then went to college at, eventually went to college at Juniata, graduated from there, then went to grad school at IUP, which is where I got my master's in education.
Sounds like IUP.
So it was, it's been a journey. I've been doing these programs for about a year now. And I really like doing them. I like teaching. I like trying to help people. I like trying to, give people ideas and tips to better themselves, or at least try to better their lifestyle or their outcomes. We'll talk a little bit today. Program is about diabetes. And as I said, it is something that is near and dear to my heart. I recently was diagnosed as diabetic, and I'll tell you a few of those stories as we go along. I just want to let you know that it is not just a few of us. There are millions of Americans that suffer from diabetes. These numbers are from 2020, so it's probably a little bit higher now, but it is around 34 million people in the US have diabetes. And some alarming statistics. These just give you some ideas. A lot of times minorities are more prone to things like diabetes. It has to do with healthcare. It has to do with determinants of health, like what access to food they may have, especially fresh food, things like that. We are lucky enough to be in a pretty rural county that has some nice options in the summertime as far as like fresh fruit markets and things like that. They have one out here in Smithfield on Thursdays, but a lot of time when you get into inner cities, things like that, where there's a higher population per capita, you don't have access to as much. So, and these statistics are sort of reflective of that. So almost 13% of African Americans over the age of 18 have diabetes. Like I say, these numbers are around 2018 to 2020. More African American women have diabetes than men. That's another sort of alarming statistic. Again, has to do with access to certain medical treatments, healthy food, things like that. 2017, African Americans are twice as likely as non-Hispanic whites to die from diabetes. Again, that has to do with access to things like education or these programs, or access to medical professionals, whether it be hospitals, doctors, lack of insurance, lack of things like that. Just some more statistics to go along that line, and I won't spend a lot of time on these. 12% Hispanic Latinos over the age of 18 have diabetes. And then when you go to non-Hispanic whites, it's about 7.5%. So it drops drastically. Again, it from what they can tell, the central determinants of health, things like access to insurance, access to medical care, access to education, access to healthy, fresh foods. That's what limits that, and that's what affects that percentage a little bit, just to be aware. I am one of these 34 million Americans that have diabetes, as I'm sure some of you probably do too. That's why you're here. Diabetes can be deadly. I don't want to, I try to have fun, but in all seriousness, it is something that left untreated will be your demise, whether it leads to other illnesses, whether it's the diabetes itself. You will eventually, your body will eventually give in to it. What is diabetes? I think most of us may know this, but just to make it sort of simple, when you eat food, that's how you get your energy. So you eat your food, you have your food, it'll turn into sugar. Your insulin then turns that into energy. I'd like to do the little here. Basically what this says is in a normal working body, you eat your food, it gets broken down into glucose or sugar. Your insulin then turns that into energy, and that's how you get your energy to do things. In people with diabetes, one of two things is usually happen. One, their body is either not producing insulin at all, or it's not producing enough of it that it's working properly. And we'll talk a little bit about those and the differences in type 1 and type 2 and a few other diabetes diagnoses. So sugar builds up in your blood. It can damage your organs. I think we've all heard that from our doctors. Just ideas of what it can damage are things like your heart, kidney, your eyes, blood vessels, nerves. And this is where I like to tell people the little stories of how I found out I was diabetic. I woke up Easter morning, went to church with my family, and I was using the restroom an awful lot. And after church, I just usually have water or something, but I just wanted lemonade. I wanted something sweet. I knew it was there, and I drank a glass, and I drank another glass, and I drank a third glass, and I was still going to the restroom a lot. My sister's like, you need to check your blood sugar. And I said, why? I'm not diabetic. Why would I check my blood sugar? She's like, because that's not normal to drink that much sweetness or keep craving that much sweetness and going to the restroom. When I checked my blood sugar later, after that, it was around 420. And she's like, you're diabetic. And I said, no, I'm not. Tried to deny it. So went through the rest of the day drinking a lot of water, eventually going to see my doctor. And when I did, they did an A1C test. She did a blood sugar. Again, it was still over 300. And she said, you're diabetic. And I'm like, are you sure? She's like, I am sure. My A1C was just over 7. So I was right on the cusp. The average for my blood sugar, she said, was about 160 to 180 over the last month or two. So I was right on the edge. So we didn't start on medication. We wanted to try to treat it with diet. And that worked well for a few months. But then, like I told you here about a month ago, my glucose meter wasn't reading right. It was telling me hi. And I ended up going to the hospital, and it was, like I said, over 700. Spent the day in the hospital. So it is something that's been a struggle. And I just want to share that a little bit. So some things that I mentioned, the kidneys, the peeing a lot, they're your filters. If you have a lot of sugar in there, it does a lot of damage to your kidneys. Another thing that I wouldn't have thought of that I had, eye trouble. I had LASIK surgery about 20 some years ago, and I just, over the last year or so, been blurred vision, can't read the TV, the guy that comes up on the TV. I have to get up. What's going on? I just assumed my LASIK was, that was 20 years ago. I'm in my later 40s at this point. So I just thought, okay, the eyes are going. Here it was sugar built up in your eyes. And that sugar, when it has no place to go in your blood, it goes to wherever something's moist or that can sort of liquid like. And your eyes have that moisture, so it goes there. That's where you get that blurred vision, that sort of cracked looking vision. It's sugar. It's basically sugar particles build up in your eyes, affecting your vision. Within a few days of drinking some water, my vision got better. Like no sugar intake, just straight drinking water, my vision got better. It's not perfect, but it's better than what it was. Just little changes like that. If you don't treat your diabetes, it can lead to other diseases. My doctor told me that day that if I don't treat my diabetes, it will kill me. One way or another, it will lead to either a disease or my body, if I just kept on doing what I was doing, it will kill me at a much younger age than what it should be. And that really was eye-opening. Like I said, I have a little daughter, she's 11. So that was something sort of eye-opening and scary. And like I said, this whole thing's kind of scary for me, as it is for others. The diseases, things like blindness. If I keep doing it, the sugar will eventually hurt my eyes to the point where I will go blind, or at least legally blind, and all I'll see is just reflective colors, because it just sort of crystallizes like the old kaleidoscopes. Heart disease, stroke, kidney failure, everyone's favorite sexual problem, bedroom problems. It can affect someone's libido or how they feel about themselves. And it's not even consciously, it's subconsciously, your body just won't feel right when the sugar is way high. And it's just, those are just some examples. And talk a little bit about signs and symptoms. I mentioned restroom, craving sweets, blurred vision. Separately, most people don't put those together and go, that's a red flag for diabetes. I didn't put it together. And a lot of people, unless they know or deal with people who are diabetic, they don't know. Like, oh, you're just going to the restroom a lot. That has nothing to do with your blurred vision. You know, you're craving sweets. That has nothing to do with your lack of energy or things like that. Being more thirsty than usual. Again, like I said, that was a big one. Unusual weight loss. A lot of times, weight loss. It can also be weight gain. They don't mention that, but unusual weight loss usually should be a red flag. Hey, if I've lost 5 pounds in a week or 10 pounds in a week and a half without trying, something may have happened in your body. Without changing your diet or doing extra exercise, you shouldn't lose that much weight over that short amount of time. Blurry vision. This is a lot of what I see when I would read the TV screen. And again, like I said, I didn't put 2 and 2 together or 2 and 2 and 3 to get everything because I wasn't aware of the symptoms. I wasn't diabetic. No one that I knew was diabetic. My mom developed it about 10 years ago, but I'm not around her enough to really know some of the symptoms and things. And of course, I didn't mention them to her in that aspect altogether at once. Additional signs and symptoms: bad moods, tiredness, as I mentioned, going to the bathroom more than usual, increased hunger, being hungry late at night when you're ready for bed. Your body shouldn't still be wanting food, but sometimes, especially if you're diabetic, that's one of the symptoms. Your body wants fed, it's hungry. What I would have is I would usually skip breakfast because I wasn't a big breakfast person. And then I would eat lunch. And then after lunch, I would get kind of tired and want to take a nap. Most times you couldn't do that because you're at work, but on the weekends, that's exactly what I did. And then I would eat a big supper. Your body's not meant to work like that, or not meant to function like that. It needs to be fed 3 nicely timed out meals. I was never a huge breakfast fan, but since, like I said, April, and doing this and making some changes in the diet, it makes a huge difference as far as energy level, makes a huge difference as far as my sugar level later in the day. And I'll explain a little bit about that. When your when your blood sugar is very high, it happens when your diabetes isn't taken care of. Like I said, it can cause coma or death. Diabetic coma starts, I believe they say technically around 550 or 650. I think it's 550. It can start. Doesn't mean that you're going to go into a coma if your blood sugar hits 550. It just means it's a possibility. So you have to be aware of that. Everyone's signs and symptoms can be different. That is 100% true. I didn't experience any weight loss. I had a little bit, like I said, of the tiredness, but the mood swings, yes. The blurred vision, yes. The increased thirst, using the restroom, a lot of those red flags I had. But like I said, if you don't know them or you're not educated on them, you may not piece them together and understand that that's what's causing it. 3 different types of diabetes. Type 1, this is where your body doesn't produce insulin. This is usually found in children or young adults. Sometimes it may not be diagnosed till early 20s, but they usually have other medical problems going on that this gets diagnosed pretty early. Your body's not producing insulin at all. When you eat, you may still get tired. You don't have that energy. It's not giving you what it should. Even if you eat sugar, you're not getting that boost like you should. And like I said, this is usually diagnosed in children up to young adults. Type 2 diabetes, most common type. This is the one that we develop later on in life. This is the one that your body usually is still producing insulin. It's just not producing enough of it, or it's not producing it properly so where it can take care of the sugar that you're intaking. So I do want to just take a little pause here for a second and talk a little bit about type 2 and how our bodies become diabetic when we're not born that way. It has to do with a lot of sugar intake. And what people don't realize is sugar is just not a number on the back of the bottle. You know, if you have your bottle, that one doesn't have a nutrition facts on the back of the bottles. I think we've seen them. I do have something nutrition facts. They're crackers, but the nutrition facts that are on the back here, a lot of times people just see those as numbers and they don't really try to understand what those numbers mean. And they may not eat a bunch of candy. Maybe they just like I was. I didn't like candy a lot. I drank a lot of lemonades, sweet teas, not even sodas, but like chocolate milk, sweet tea, lemonades, sweet drinks, juices. And they have a lot of sugar in it that people don't realize. And I brought a couple little props with me just to sort of give you an idea. This sugar right here is 20 grams, 4 teaspoons of sugar. This is how much sugar is in one Nutty Buddy. That's one Nutty Buddy there. And I got a few others just to sort of show. A box of Sour Patch Kids has 64 grams. It's 12.8 teaspoons. 64 grams in a box of Sour Patch Kids. A serving size is 16 of them. And that's about 26 grams. So about a third of this is considered your serving size. And most people, if they're like me, when I get a box of Sour Patch Kids, I think that's one serving, just like a can of Pringles. It comes in one can, it's one serving. No, they want several servings out of it.
Or a bag of chips.
Or a bag of chips.
Well,
like,
the bag of chips has a lot of air though. So.
yes. On average, I've been watching this now. Pringles the serving size is 12. 12 Pringles is a serving size. Yeah. Who knew that? 12 don't even like that. Things like that. People just don't think about. This is a bottle of Coke. 65 grams of sugar in one bottle, 20-ounce bottle of Coke. Every time you drink that one bottle of Coke, it is like dumping all of this sugar down your throat. And the difference between dumping sugar down your throat as opposed to eating chips and carbohydrates that way, carbs take time to break down. So it takes longer to get into your bloodstream. So it doesn't shoot your blood sugar up. Carbs still can raise your blood sugar a good bit, especially things like potatoes, breads, pastas, things like that. But they take longer to spike because your body has to break them down. When you drink these sweet drinks, when you drink juices and sodas and things like that, that sugar is already broken down. It goes straight into your stomach and straight into your bloodstream. There's no digesting that or knocking that out. And really the only way to get rid of the sugar is water. So once you have that in you, water and exercise. I mean, you can exercise and sweat a lot of that sugar out. That's where it goes. But drinking water and exercise is probably the two best ways to get your sugar, other than emergency insulin or things like that, emergency medicine. This is the average day of Americans' sugar intake. This is 380 grams. That's the average daily diet of an American. 380 grams of sugar. That's 76 teaspoons.
Jeez.
Right, and that's why I bring these along, because again, I can tell you all day long that hey, Gatorade has a ton of sugar. I'm going to do a bag on Gatorade. Regular Gatorade has a ton of sugar. People are like, oh, it's a great drink. It could be refreshing, but it's filled with sugar, just as much close to as the soda. It's almost unbelievable, right? To see that much sugar. That's the average intake, and a daily diet. Just something to sort of to visualize and put that together. And that's, if you're like me, it was diets like this that caused my body to develop diabetes. Your body's not meant to absorb that much sugar. It doesn't have a place to put it. It's not beneficial as far as the energy it gives you, because it's a quick rush that goes in your bloodstream, spikes your sugar, and it's gone within an hour or two. Your energy for the day is not coming from that kind of sugar. So it is something that's eye-opening, to say the least. Again, I also liked a lot of pastas, breads, potatoes. Like that was, I could eat pasta 7 days a week and twice on Sunday.
And pizza.
And pizza. And it's hard, like, because that's all I lived on for, I bet you, 30 years. Pasta, pizza, quick fast food, breaded, deep fried chicken, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, those are what a lot of people live on because they're busy. It's quick, it's convenient, and it tastes good. Like, that's not lie. These things taste good, but our bodies aren't meant to take in that kind of intake. Even the food. Most people are surprised to find out that a serving size is what you can fit in a palm of your hand. So when your dinner comes out and they bring you pasta, a serving size is about the size of, not both hands, it's about the size of one palm of your hand. That much pasta. And then you want that much fruit and vegetables.
That's a crime.
It is. My doctor told me, she's like, it's almost, we're almost set up to fail. Because when you go out to eat, especially at any restaurant or thing, or you go for Italian, they're going to bring you usually a little salad like this, followed by what looks like a gallon bowl of pasta. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. And it's like, it needs to be the other way around. It needs to be a salad like this. And pasta like this. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. So it is difficult. I want you to know that it is. There's help out there though. There's help, there's tips. I do have some flyers while I'm on the subject of tips of just things like shopping for healthier things. Things about high blood pressure, a diabetes checklist that people love. You take it, it's information. And I have a little bit of information on stroke and I believe heart disease or heart attacks, but I'll look. But taking these kinds of flyers, reading over them, trying to get different tips, asking friends, asking people, asking your doctor, these are how we're going to learn to do better. If you have a hard time like I do with meals, because like I said, I don't eat red meat, I don't eat a lot of protein. It's usually chicken or pork, white meat, fish. And I ate a lot of breads and things like that. And I didn't eat a lot of salads, vegetables. Like, what are those? Like, I give them to my rabbit. Like, what? So it's hard. So I'm trying to learn different things. So just keep that in mind. Like, there are options. And we'll talk a little bit about that once we get a little further down. Continuing with, I stopped after type 2 diabetes, type 1, type 2, because these two are a little bit different. Pre-diabetes is just a newer term now to sort of let you know, hey, it's not red flag, but you're yellow flag. You're really close to that cusp or being that borderline. So again, it's not technically an official diagnosis, but they will diagnose you as pre-diabetic and let you know, hey, you are getting really close. If you don't make some changes sooner than later, you're going to be over that threshold into diabetic. Gestational diabetes, this is developed during pregnancy sometimes. This could cause serious problems for the baby. I know that my daughter's mother developed this while she was pregnant. Once she had the baby, it sort of went away. It's not there anymore, so she doesn't quite have to watch it, but she still checks it regularly just because. And they recommend it, even if you don't have diabetes, that you check it at least twice a year just to see, just to know if you're getting close. But that's just, those were two other ones real quick to mention. How do I know if I have diabetes? There's really only one way to know, and that's to go to your doctor. The doctor will do either a urine and or a blood test. The urine is to check for ketonin in your urine sample. If it's high, then they can make a call that you're probably diabetic, that your sugar's probably high. And more likely they'll do a blood test or an A1C test. And that gives you basically a number that doesn't match your glucose meter, but it's a different type of number, but it gives them an average of what your sugar had been over the previous 2 to 3 months. They say between 6 to 8 weeks. Is there treatment for diabetes? There is, yes, yay. They want you to know that there's things you can do, and we sort of know that. And as much as we want the magical something to come and be like, it's going to come down to two basic things that we talk about a little bit.
Keep your mouth glued shut.
Keep your mouth glued shut. Eventually, keep your mouth glued shut and start walking. And we'll talk about that, but it comes down to diet and exercise. But we'll talk, everybody's different. Please talk to your doctor. Like I said, when this first started with me, my doctor was very, very nice. She didn't throw me right into medication like many doctors will. She's like, you're borderline. I'm going to give you this chance to try to do it with diet and exercise, see if you can do it. And I did really well for 4 months, 5 months. And then, like I said, I didn't change anything, but all of a sudden my body the sugar started going up. And at that point, there wasn't much I can do with my amount of diet and exercise. I'm gonna have some medication, and they started me on metformin recently. But talk to your doctor. Everybody's treatment can be different. Everybody's treatment, everybody's different. And every doctor may have a different idea. So, like I said, my doctor did on the very first day of talking about it, make it very clear that you are not getting rid of this. This is going to be with you for the rest of your life. And if you do not, take care of it, like I said, the ultimate will happen. But you're going to have this for the rest of your life. You're going to have to do something about it. If you do, that's up to you. The doctor's not going to hold a gun or threaten me with prison if I don't follow the rules. She's just going to tell me the truth. You're not going to live as long as what you would like. Keeping the level of sugar in the blood within normal range will help you stay in control. That normal range, for me at this point, being diabetic, the fasting, my doctor would like it to be around, I think she told me between 120 and 150, my fasting. And after eating between 160 and 190, which is almost impossible sometimes. Like, I really have to watch what I eat to keep it under 200. And for the first almost year now, one year, it's a lot of experiment. Trying something, waiting the 2 hours, test your sugar and see what it did to it. So it's trial and error. There is a lot of that. How do I control the levels of my blood sugar? These are the fun things. Eat right. Eat things that have lots of protein, fiber. They will help lower your blood sugar, and fiber also helps. Protein does a little bit, but fiber more so helps cancel out some sugar. So if you're eating something that has some sugar in it, if it's also high in fiber, it'll cancel out a good portion of that sugar. Just because it slows down the digestive process. Fiber will slow it down, therefore the sugar doesn't get into your bloodstream as fast. So it won't spike your blood sugar. It'll sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? It'll digest at a slower rate if you have more fiber in your diet with that. Fibers like greeneries, vegetables, fruits like oranges, things like that. And people sometimes are scared of things like oranges and grapes and bananas. Don't be scared of them. Like, again, talk to your doctor, but they would much rather you eat that fruit than that can of Pringles, whether it's a banana or a handful of grapes. They'd much rather you eat that fruit than a giant bowl of pasta. So that's what that's conversations I've had with my doctor, and so, many doctors will agree with that. I believe that they'll tell you if you're going to choose between fruit and pasta, but you're worried that the fruit's going to be too sweet, please eat the fruit, because the pasta is carbs, it's going to slow down, and it's eventually going to spike your sugar. So try to choose the fruit if possible.
Did you ever hear of a Mediterranean diet?
A Mediterranean diet, I've heard of them, yes.
That's what they want me to be on.
Okay, it's supposed to be really good for you.
Yes, and I don't know, do they mention about what that is? Because I don't know what a Mediterranean, I've heard of it, but I've never tried one.
You say you were on it, or?
I've heard of it and heard that it's supposed to be good. Isn't it like fruits?
Yeah, it's like fruits and vegetables.
More than
Yes, yeah. And
fish.
a lot of fish, and fish is great for you. Protein. I was never a huge meat eater. Like, I'd eat chicken and fish, but things with protein. Again, you don't want to overdo it, especially if you have things like high cholesterol or high blood pressure, things like that. Your diet can affect those things too, which is why I say if you go to your doctor, they'll know more about your specific case and be like, okay, I have high blood pressure. I have, my cholesterol's not very high, so I'm okay there, because I've never eaten a lot of red meat or anything like that. So things like that, speak with them, and then they can sort of give you some insight. But if a Mediterranean diet is basically fruits, vegetables, and some fish,
There's something about plant.
plant-based things,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's it'd be your fruits and.
That would be your vegetables, and again, those things, that diet is high in fiber. Because even if you eat the orange, and peel the rind or whatever that's left on the orange, that little bit of fiber goes a long way. I started eating a lot of celery, like my doctor would rather, and I said, well, I really celery unless I have something to put on, like ranch or something. She's like, I'd rather you put a little bit of ranch on the celery and eat celery than again get French fries or get the side of baked potato and fry. So when I go out to eat now, I've substituted celery for French fries almost every place I go. If they have celery, I'll get that instead of the French fries and a little bit of ranch.
They probably think he's nuts.
They do. You should see the looks I get. But those little bit of small changes because it's hard for me to give up everything else. Like I said, if I had to choose between candy or sweet drinks, I want the sweet drink. And if I'm going to have any little bit of sugar, it's not going to be candy. I'm going to have a small drink of something somehow. And my doctor, again, she understands that it's not about saying your life is over and your happiness is gone and you can never enjoy your foods that you love again. It's about moderation. If you're going to have pasta, have that
You
small.
can't do that.
It's hard, and that's.
Can you do that? Just the,
Can you eat just a small amount of pasta? For me, it is hard. You're right. You're right. But to me, also the alternative is I can't have it at all. And I don't.
so I think you're better off. I do have it, a plateful,
But
not a handful.
it tastes better. It does taste better and it fills you up.
If you eat it, years and years ago, when I got diagnosed, they did classes, like a 6-week class up at the hospital. And, they had said something, one of the ladies and I were in a group, we were laughing that, if you ate something like that, ate the candy bar or ate too much of the pasta and stuff, go exercise. And so she and I laughed all over the place about we were going to be doing a lot of exercise.
A lot of
We were going to be eating a lot of candy bars and stuff.
Yeah.
But they say and it's really sad to me if you do a lot, if you're walking a lot and you do it before you eat the pasta, it doesn't do you much good for the pasta. And you have to do the exercise after the pasta.
And
Which
you're
always
walking.
seemed unfair, because I don't want to, after I'm done eating, I don't want to go walk. I want to sit
Yeah.
back.
Just relax, right?
Just relax and sit down.
I just had a nice
And-
meal and I'm gonna sit and have a nice relaxing evening.
And that
They
was,
say walking
yes,
after that.
walking after that meal or exercising, and it doesn't have to be like right after the meal, but within an hour or two to start exercising so you can start working that off. And like I said, I was terrible. I would want that bowl of pasta when I got home from work at night, which could be 6, 7 o'clock, and then 8, 9 o'clock, I'm laying in bed. And that's the worst thing for your body because it just sits there and that sugar just lays in your body. The energy that pasta would give you just.
You slept through
You
it.
slept through it. You slept through it. And when you do that, you add some weight. Like if you saw pictures of me 20 years ago when I was eating bowls of pasta like that and pizzas, I was rail thin. And I was like that till I got to about 40. And 40, a lot of health problems started happening. I gained weight and like I say, by 45, I was diagnosed as diabetic, and now I'm 46, and I'm still struggling with what's that here later in the year. And it's wrong making those choices several years ago. Now, they're not what's keeping me this way, but from doing that for so many years and being in that routine, it's hard for me now to come up with a different routine. You know, it is really hard. I don't know. You're right. It's a struggle. If I go to eat pasta, I have to have someone watching me. Because if I don't, if I'm left to my own devices, I will go back and fill that
I
plate
would
up.
tell them let me alone.
I would do that too, to a certain extent, but it's my 11-year-old daughter looking at me going, and she knows. It's like she knows the consequence. If dad doesn't take care of himself, I won't have dad as long. And when she looks at you and says, that was your pasta, or, you know, she knows I can't have sweet drinks. And if I ask her for a drink of her, whatever, she's like, one drink, that's it. She's like, you do more. I'm dumping it out, and I'm telling your mom, telling Grammy, and you know, she'll try to get me in trouble. So it's hard because you know the people, at least the people that are telling me, I know they care about me. I know they care about me, and the least I can do is care back. You know what I mean? Try to care back. It is difficult to go into a restaurant and ask for celery when everybody else at the table has a plate full of fries. It's hard. It's hard when everybody else is getting giant bowls of pasta, and I have to get a little bowl of pasta, and I can't even get the breadstick with it because that would be too much bread. It's hard to do that.
Drink a glass of water.
Drink a glass of water. I get water at every meal now. When I used to go out, I love the drinks, the sweet drinks. And even if they had alcohol, that was even better, but alcohol still will spike your sugar because it's so sweet. And yeah, it is a struggle to say the least. So when I say, I know how you feel. I know how you feel. It has not been the most fun experience. It's been scary at times. It's been depressing at times. It's been chaotic at times. And I'm just talking about diabetes. And the way my doctor sort of explained it to me is, you know, she said, if you took a cancer patient and they came in the office and I told them all they had to do was eat right and exercise and their cancer would be controlled, do you think they would do it? And I'm like, yes, probably. She's like, yet a large percentage of diabetics won't, and the outcome will be the same. I don't want to get like down.
When you put it that
When
way,
you put it that way, it sort of makes you feel, you know what I mean? Like, because my mom survived cancer 3 times. I saw the struggles and battles. I lost my brother-in-law. My sister lost her husband, father to her 3 kids to brain cancer. He was 34. She was left with 3 kids under the age of 14 at the time. This was 20 years ago now, but if you could tell those people that struggled, hey, your cancer would be controlled if all you did was change your diet and exercise a little. And I'm not saying like exercise, get a gym membership, run a mile a day, start with lifting weights. I'm talking about 30 minutes a day, 3 10-minute exercises. Like break it up 3 times for 10 minutes. And it doesn't even have to be exercise, just getting your heart rate up for 10 minutes, 3 different times. And you can use your imagination and ways to do that. But that little bit of exercise and a little bit of diet change makes a world of difference. And that's what sort of fits into what we're talking about. Little bit of exercise, lowers your blood sugar, helps maintain your weight, helps keep your heart healthy. People are like, oh, why does it make my heart healthy to make it race like that? Well, I'll tell you, if you want to live a long age, there are eventually things that are going to happen to your heart, and you would much rather have it stronger than weaker. So just like when you lift weights to stretch your muscles, to get stronger, to get bigger muscles, when you get your heart to race, it's a muscle. When it's doing that, it's getting stronger. In the event that something happens where you may have a heart attack or your heart rate may spike, like I have SVT, it spikes up over 250 beats a minute for no reason. If you have a heart that does things like that, it is much better to have a stronger heart, because if not, it won't withstand that. So when we say to exercise and get your heart to beat a little bit like that, it's to exercise your heart as well, to make it a little bit stronger. Other things you can do, like I said, we talked about diet, exercise, of course, check your blood sugar level. Blood sugar testing is important. It lets you know if it's too high, too low. Even now, if my blood sugar drops below 120, which isn't really technically high, I feel lightheaded because my body's so used to the higher sugar level for years. At this point, it's still trying to get used to if it drops below 120.
They say mine goes up at night, during the night.
Hey, Cam, do you eat before bed or anything or drink anything?
Of course,
Like,
I eat in the evening.
yes, and that's what happens if you eat and then you're not going to physically exercise or do things, your blood sugar is going to go up. Or if you're like me, I like to drink a glass of chocolate milk before bedtime, is what I would do, and my sugar would spike and then I'd lay down.
I just drink diet. So, for 40 years, well, with my first child, I got gestational.
Yeah,
And then I had it back and forth. With the second one, I didn't get it. The third one, I did, and I just stayed. And it never really bothered me too much, because a few years ago, my doctor said, as you get older, your sugar goes up, but that's okay. Now, all of a sudden, it's not okay. And I'm supposed to really be watching it because my A1C was 9.8.
yes. And that's where they sort of, anything over 9, they want to
And
really watch.
And when I went to the eye doctor, I had bleeding behind my eyes.
Mhm.
And
Yes,
but I'm supposed to, in the morning, take it before I eat or drink anything, take it. And if they want it to be 130 or less,
okay,
which it has only ever been a couple times. But if it's more than that, every third day, I'm supposed to increase insulin at bedtime by 2.
that's a lot, especially when you say that you've had it below there only once,
There's
right?
only been a couple times, but yeah.
No, that's,
Well, they sent me after 40 years. They sent me to an endocrinologist,
yeah.
and I saw him twice, and then he retired.
Oh,
And that's just not about endo, that's across the board. Like, I travel these counties and everything from family doctors to dentists. They're retiring and there is not an upswing of people to take their place.
People don't want to pay their insurance that they have to pay.
No, and it's outrageous. My mom, like I said, is diabetic. She has to take she takes one of those weekly shots.
Mhm.
And the insurance doesn't cover all of it. So she has hit that part of the year where she's maxed out with her insurance. They cover a certain part. For her monthly shots, that's 4 shots. It is $1,800 that she has to pay out of pocket.
I would say no. I'm not
But she
gonna
had
pay.
to, she can't afford that. She had to say, I can't afford that. And they're like, well, we'll try to work with you, we can set up payments. She's like, and then what am I gonna do next month and the next month? Like, she's like, here's 2 more months of the year. And then January comes, well, the insurance company starts all over, but then she has her deductible to start back up. But she, right now, she's in that, what they call that loophole or
Yeah.
the, whatever it is.
Is that donut hole? Is
Donut
that-
hole, that's it. And that's where
You
she's
were saying
stuck
I
at.
could remember that donut hole.
Donut hole, see? Yeah, and that's where she's stuck at, trying to get her diabetes medicine. It is not an easy battle. Like I say, a lot of times people don't, they hear, oh, you have diabetes, it's no big deal, everybody has diabetes, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
No, it is a really big deal, because it is a major lifestyle change, and if you don't, like I said, the outcome, and it is serious, like it's a battle, pay for medicine, because this is no longer, okay, well, if I can get that medicine, I'll get it. This is life-sustaining medicine. Like, if you don't have it, your sugars are going to go up, and we all know the result of what's going to happen. So it becomes a real struggle. It does. The eating late. Again, I go back to sort of my conversations with my doctor. She told me to sort of treat my kitchen like a restaurant. At 7:30, the appliances are off. At 8 o'clock, the lights are off. Nobody gets served after 8. She said, because that gives you about 2 hours, because she was averaging going to bed around 10. That gives you about 2 hours to, and she said, in those 2 hours, don't just go lay in bed, or don't just go sit on the recliner. Do something in those 2 hours after you ate. Whether it's fold the laundry or do a little bit of chores or the dishes, just do something to keep yourself active a little bit, keep your body moving, and that'll help keep the sugar down a little bit. And then it won't spike so much when you lay down and go to sleep. What happens is we eat, and I was bad for that. I would eat supper, go up, sit in bed, do my computer work, and then be like, let's get a snack, or let's order Domino's at 10 o'clock at night. And here we are, we're eating at 10, 11 o'clock every day. The next morning, I regret it, but it was fun. We ate, we stuffed, we lived like kings. Can't do that. My sugar, like I said, if I eat after 8 and have a sweet drink or a glass of milk, and when I'm talking glass of milk, I'm 6 to 8 ounces. That's it. The following mornings, my sugars are over 200, like resting, like that's my fasting. So that's awful. We had a work dinner the other night at this big fancy Italian restaurant that they took me to. And the meal was chicken parm, pasta, fresh bread, fresh garlic bread, fresh pizza, and this place was good pizza. And I thought I did really well. I had sliced pizza, I had just a small portion of pasta, chicken parm. But when I woke up the next morning, my sugar was 230. And like I said, that was the next morning. And that dinner was at 7 p.m. So I laid around, I was in a hotel, so I laid down around 9:30, 10. So I know it is a struggle. And the best advice that I can give, or that I can say, is that when that happens, I just have to try to tell myself, I'll do better today. I will do better today. And I will, because I feel bad. Like I said, I come home and I see my daughter, and she's inquisitive now. She's 11. She knows these things. She wants to ask, well, what'd you eat? What was your sugars? And it's hard to answer to an 11-year-old. It is. Like, her mother and I aren't together, so I don't have that. I do have a significant other, but again, my daughter's priority number one. And when she's the one looking at me going, Would you have a drink last night? what was your sugars and what up this morning? It makes it hard. Sorry, I get a little bit off track a little bit, but I want people to understand that I'm here to sort of help and I'm in this battle with you, trust me. I'm here as much for me as I am for everybody else to sort of help. Take your medications. If your doctor prescribes you medication, take it. And I can't agree with this enough, and I can't stress this enough. Take it as prescribed. I know sometimes people are like, oh, I missed my metformin in the morning, I'll just take 2 of them in the evening. Doesn't work that way. You need to take them as prescribed so that they work the way your doctor wants them to work. If you don't take them the way they prescribe, and then you come back into your doctor for your follow-up and he or she does another A1C and they see that your sugars aren't working, they're gonna increase your meds even more. When maybe if you would have taken the right amount the first round, it would have reflected differently.
Now, they changed my metformin. Yeah, I was taking 1,000 twice a day, but then they said that they changed it to 500. And they said you could take 2 at a time or you could take all 4 together. It don't matter.
Okay, that may be, that may be, depending on where you're at. I know that when I was prescribed metformin, they told me, and I started at 500 twice a day, and I was told to do the one in after the breakfast meal, or even after, I could do it even after lunch if I wanted to, but I was to take it after my food or when I ate, and then do the evening one with dinner. So I did get a little bit of leeway when to take the first one. I could do it either after breakfast or after lunch, just so I took the second one after dinner. Before bedtime or anything like that. And that's what I've been trying to do. Like I say, they may have, if your levels are to a certain point where they're like, you can take all 4 at once, maybe, that's fine. I know that sometimes metformin has a bad effect on people's stomach. And I was warned of that also. I didn't get quite that side effect, but I know several people who were sick for the first, few
Some people
weeks.
get diarrhea too.
Yes, diarrhea was what the main complaint I heard was. And they would get it for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks till their body got used to it. And then anytime there was adjustments, they'd have a little bit of discomfort, stomach discomfort. So if your body is taking it and your doctor's okay with you taking 4 of them, I trust your doctor, because I assume you trust your doctor. But it's good to have a doctor that you can talk to, that you trust and that can explain things to you like that. Like I say, I always refer back to the doctor because I'm not a medical professional. I am, education, that's my profession basically. So I always will revert back to them and ask you to take their advice. Like I say, take it as prescribed. We are getting right near the end here. I do apologize, run a little long, but I wanted to get some information out there. ABCs of diabetes. These are basically what some of the things they really want you to take away. The ABCs of diabetes. One, the A is A1C. Knowing what your A1C is. Knowing what A1C represents. It gives you a number that gives you an average of your sugar levels over the previous 2 to 3 months. Have your A1C tested at least twice a year. They recommend, if you're not diabetic, to still have it checked at least once a year just to see. But if you're diabetic, definitely have it checked twice a year. If not more, your doctor may request it more. Talk to your doctor about what the best A1C is for you. It is important to test your sugar every day. That's another thing that people sometimes skip. They're like, oh, I'm diabetic and I cheated. I don't even want to look at it and see what it is today. And that's not healthy either. You need to see where you're at because, like I said, when mine shot up over 700, I didn't feel any type of way. I didn't feel sick, didn't feel a headache, didn't feel anything. And that's sort of what those numbers can cause, or things like coma, or things like a stroke. And that's why they call strokes, the silent killers, because there is no real symptom coming up. And high blood sugar can be one of those. There's no real symptoms sometimes. High blood pressure makes your heart work too hard. This is the B, by the way. Have your blood pressure checked regularly at your doctor's office. If you are diabetic, they will, most doctor's office will check your blood pressure every time you go. So it should be less than 140/90. Mine's usually a little bit higher, but I also take medication for that as well. Discuss this with your doctor. So the B of the ABCs is blood pressure. So we have A1C, blood pressure, and the trifecta is cholesterol. Bad cholesterol causes clogged arteries. We know that's not good. If your blood's trying to flow and you take those walls and you sort of shrink them with that plaque, the blood doesn't flow quite as well, which in turn can increase your blood pressure because it's trying to pump harder to pump that liquid through. So it is something to do, especially if you're diabetic, to know. Have your cholesterol checked at least once a year. Your cholesterol should be less than 200. Again, discuss this with your doctor. The reason they tell you these ABCs of diabetes, they're all numbers. You should know these numbers. If you don't memorize these numbers, you should try to carry a little card. Sometimes they give medication cards that people carry in their wallets or in their purses. On those medication cards, a lot of times, there's a spot to put your numbers. Again, I know your blood pressure changes routinely. So does your A1C, so will your cholesterol level. But each time you go to the doctor, if you sort of adjust that, or every time you have it tested, reason being, if something happens to you, God forbid, something happens where you lose consciousness and paramedics are there, they will search your wallet for one, a list of medications that you may be on, and two, this information. One, they can find out if you're diabetic. Two, because you'll have your A1C on there. Two, they'll see if you have high blood pressure and or high cholesterol. So they can treat you better, and they may know which and which not drugs to administer depending on that. Just a little helpful hint that they put out there. I don't know if you guys have seen them. A lot of times doctor's office gives them away, but the little medication list of cards. If you can't find one, at worst case, get a little piece of paper, write them on, and you can use like clear packing tape to sort of laminate it so it doesn't smear or it gets lost. At least it has a list of your medications, like I said, and the things like A1C, blood pressure, and cholesterol.
Do you think when you're diabetic, you should wear a necklace or a bracelet that says that?
You know, it would be helpful, yes. But what happens is you get to a slippery slope. Because if people say, you should wear a necklace or a bracelet because you're diabetic, eventually people are going to be like, well, we need to know if you have this ailment. You need to wear a marker. Whether that's, you have cancer, maybe you should wear a pink bracelet, so we know. But then you get into things like HIV and AIDS. Well, we should know if they have HIV or AIDS. They should wear a bracelet. What happens is it's what they call a slippery slope. It sounds like a great idea to have those on there, but again, that's putting your medical information out there because one,
Everybody in the world is seeing what's on your
everybody in
list.
the world is going to see what you have on you, and they're going to know that person's diabetic.
But you can do it that, like, this is I don't know if they'd even look at it if I had an emergency, but this was black when I originally got it done, but it's got medical, that symbol for medical stuff. If they take this off, it's got my name and says I'm type 2 diabetes and my birthday on it. I decided, because they always ask that, what's your birthday and stuff. I don't know for sure that a emergency person would know. I know they look for like the ones that have the little charm on it. That shows more than what this does. So I don't know if me having
my dad used to wear
really
one
helps.
of those.
That to me doesn't. Hopefully they'd see that and will take it off and look inside of it. I don't know if they would.
Wow.
But I agree with you. I think to have it that, like, if I had type 2 diabetes on the outside of it where everybody could see it, that doesn't seem right.
It's not right to let people know what diagnosis.
I think if you have something that has the medical symbols on it, hopefully
they would know to flip it and look. And that's probably a good idea. That would be a more reasonable idea if you could make them all look the same, but again, you'd have to make it look like other bracelets too, which yours does, like my
Yeah.
daughter has a bracelet just
Yeah.
like that, it
But
looks like,
whether, I don't, and this used to have black on it when I ordered it.
yeah.
And my name and stuff on the inside was black and too, but over time the black wore
Black
off of it and
wears off.
stuff. So I don't know really if an emergency person would ever even take note of
Think to know.
this bracelet in particular and stuff. But there are, I've seen different styles of bracelets, and to me, they don't look like anything different than just a regular
Yes.
bracelet, so.
Okay.
I'm hoping
When
to
I was
follow.
picturing, I'm picturing the one my dad had, with the medical symbol on the
Yeah.
outside, you flipped it and it had a list of whatever else was
Yeah.
going on. Because he had a lot of heart problems. So, yeah, if it could be done discreetly, it would maybe a good idea, but again, convincing 34 million Americans to wear one for diabetes. We can't convince half of them to eat right and exercise or make any changes to put on a bracelet, maybe. But it would be a nice idea, and it would help EMTs out immensely if they could know that. And that's why I mentioned about putting some of that information in your wallet, because it's at least hidden, but they will definitely search your wallet for a medication list if no one else is around.
And I think too, personally, just to throw it out, I have a card, I have one in my phone and I have one in my pocketbook that I put my medications down, but I put down different, other things I have besides the diabetes too.
Yeah,
And also, I wrote down like how often they ask you too, what operations have you had?
Oh,
and stuff.
yes.
So I have that written on my card too, so if I'm not conscious and can't say anything, I'm thinking they're gonna dig, and I, I've made a point of I think they can't miss it.
Yes.
It's my emergency information and stuff, that I did it on orange and to stand out and then put a little tag on it. too.
That's,
But I think that's a good thing too,
Yeah.
is just to have, I put everything I thought they tend to ask when I go to the doctors or go to the hospital
Put
or
on that
something.
list.
What they always seem to ask, it's right there. So, and I think the last time I went to the hospital last year and they were asking me something and I was like, here, just take this and, what's your medications? I said, for me to sit there and say them, just take my card.
Yeah.
Well, my card's this long, I fold it up.
Yes. And that's what happens is, as you get older, the list gets longer, and as the ailments line up, my list of medication is probably a 3-fold sheet, you're right. But it is helpful for them to have access to that, whether it's in your purse, in your wallet, whether we can find a way to put it on a bracelet. It's important to have that information, including these numbers, specifically if you're diabetic, so they can know, hey, maybe this person is in a diabetic coma, maybe their sugar spiked, and they didn't necessarily just fall and hit their head first, and that's why they're unconscious. They can figure some things out like that, and maybe look for that.
And to me, the card was good to have, because I thought, if I'm unconscious and we're not together now, but my husband, he has a vague idea, like he knows I have diabetes, but I don't think he really remembers everything else.
Out,
And my kids don't know everything else to be able to just rattle it off. So having it on that card, to me, I feel more comfortable that at least it's there if they're looking for it.
Someone or something knows, that has that information that they can share, yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. I think that's a wise choice to have that information. And this is just says the same thing, to know your numbers so you can stay healthy. Again, the ABCs, ABC, A1C, blood pressure, cholesterol, have those numbers, know them. Key points. Diabetes affects millions. We realize that it can be controlled, but it can't be cured. You have it, and if you have it for life. When left untreated, diabetes will be your untimely demise, so to speak, in one way or the other. Remember your ABCs, that's real simple: A1C, blood pressure, cholesterol, ABCs, and go to your doctor, please. I want to do these programs, I want to see smiling faces, and I want to see your smiling faces again, so please go to the doctor, get checked out. With that. This is just a number, like I said, Amerihealth has a 24/7 nurse line that. If anyone here would be, happen to be a member, they could jot down that number. But it is something cool. I do have, like I say, some sheets here, if you guys want, I will bring them over here and let you. And then I have some other things too before you leave. So there's that one. Here's a diabetes checklist.
Well, thank you. This was wonderful.
Good. Here's one for high blood pressure.
Appreciate this.
And then I have one for stroke, and I'll give you a copy of these too.